Hello, everyone. I am excited to have Ellen with us today from San Francisco. She is going to chat with us a little bit about her endo story, but also she has an awesome podcast that we're going to get into. So, Ellen, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be with you.
We're excited to talk to you a little bit further. And I always like to start off with just tell us a little bit about yourself. It doesn't have to be, podcast or endo related, just a little about you.
Sure. I grew up on the East Coast and I moved to San Francisco about 10 years ago. I live here with my husband and my son and my dog and my cat, and it's an amazing place to be. And yeah, it's our life is great.
Good.
Pandemic has been a little challenging, but we're getting through just like everyone else.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so this podcast focuses mainly on like endo stories and things that we can do to manage endo and just tips and tricks to help with endo. So I'd like to hear, because I know you suffer from endo as well, I'd like to hear just maybe a little bit about your story. Maybe when you were younger, did you have painful periods? And then kind of how your journey went to getting diagnosed. So I would say maybe start at the beginning. When you first got your period, did you have painful periods?
I did. And I thought they were just normal. I really didn't, I called my mom to talk to her about this because I knew I was coming on to ask what her memories were. And we both remember that I had bad cramps, but that was really sort of where it ended. I took Advil, I took Midol, I took the pain medicine that everybody kind of thought was the right thing to do.
Right.
And then when I was about 17 or 18, I think 18, I actually went on the pill, and that got rid of all of my symptoms. It's and then I was on it until I was 36 when I got married and my husband and I wanted to start thinking about having children. So it was a period that I, in retrospect, it's just so interesting that I let my hormones be hijacked for so many years by something that now seems to me like such a strong drug. But at the time, I just didn't know any different. I went on it when I was really young. I was lucky. It didn't bother me particularly. I don't remember having any real challenges with it. It was really when I went off that I started to realize how strong it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember in that time period from 18 to 36, did you have any other symptoms that now you understand may have been endo related, like bladder or bowel or any other just like stomach upset? Or did you feel just pretty normal for all of those years? You took the pill
I
and your period came and you just went on your
I
way.
felt pretty normal. I
Okay.
really did.
Yeah.
I definitely have memories of before going on the pill having really, really debilitating cramps, but the
Really
pill,
helped.
it really helped.
No, I mean, that is encouraging to hear. But like you said, too, being on it a long time and we're about to hear what happened after you went off of it. So now you're 36 and I'm assuming you're trying to think about starting a family and you go off the
hmm
pill. What started to happen?
Really bad cramps, extremely heavy periods, and no baby. And my husband and I both went to multiple tests, and everything looked fine. And we started seeing different doctors, and they all wanted me immediately to go to IVF. And having come off of the pill and starting to understand what a strong medication it was, I also had a bad accident when I was in my early 30s, a bike accident that um, was totally separate, but I had had a lot of health challenges from that, and kind of got into the healthcare system and realized that holistic care was not the norm. And so that's where I had been leaning. I started to see an acupuncturist who I saw for years, who helped me a lot with chronic pain and challenges related to that. And um, well, yeah, and so it was really kind of a surprise.
When you were
The
seeing the doctors in the beginning, sorry to interrupt, but when you were on this journey and they were maybe suggesting IVF, did anyone along the way ever, did you tell them I have painful periods, heavy periods? Did anyone ever even mention the word endometriosis to you?
Not until the third doctor that I saw, and he kind of said, it's possible that endometriosis can cause challenges with fertility. I don't think that you have it. And that was the very first time I'd ever heard it. I ended up not moving forward with that doctor. And then I went to an IVF clinic in Colorado called CCRM, and my doctor there, after a full workup and looking at ultrasound, said, I think that these shadows are signify that you have endometriosis. And that would be consistent with, at that point, it had been over 3 years that we had been trying to have a baby. And that was really the first time I'd ever heard of it. And
Right.
she said, the good news for you is that IVF really can often be endometriosis will not preclude you from having a child through IVF. So I didn't have to learn very much about it. I really didn't, I was not connected to the fact that I have and had an autoimmune disease. And so much of my understanding of it has actually happened since I had a child and since I got into cannabis, where I started to learn that cannabis can be so helpful for so many symptoms of endometriosis. And that started to connect me back to just all the dots that I never connected.
Yeah. Wow. So that's pretty incredible. Well, a couple of things that I just want to mention that, of course, you probably just don't know, but endo is actually not an autoimmune disease, even though sometimes it is said that it is.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought it was for years and years and years. I think I only learned that in the past year. It has to meet certain criteria. It's very similar, but it has to meet certain criteria for it. And then for IVF, for anyone who's listening, also just do your research. I've heard kind of both ways on that too, where like if the endo is present, it might be harder to get the IVF to work. So again, I just tell people I don't know anything about that, but to just do your research and make sure that you know what you're doing. But so now you're 39. You've been trying for 3 years to get pregnant at this point.
Yes.
Okay. So, and are you still having painful periods every single month at this point?
It's not every single month, but it's many months. And at the time I was actually working for a women's healthcare startup. And so I was also just learning so much about women's healthcare and the different stages of life and how women's bodies react to them. And so I was sort of having my own awakening about health, and then really having to go into fertility and understand what was going on with my body and trying to trust myself versus the diagnosis that that was really just unexplained infertility. I didn't know what to make of that. So I tried to, my approach was that I'm not a physician. I had a very busy life in startups and financial services, and I just didn't have the capacity, I don't think, emotionally or really intellectually, to learn all of the science. And so I just wanted to find a doctor who I trusted and say, okay, I will do everything that you tell me to. I will follow everything. And that's what I found in my doctor, Sarah Barton at CCRM. So it was a wonderful experience with her. And that was my path. I know it really, really differs for everyone, but I think
I think it's great to share that path though too. And so then you're going to this clinic and things are going really well. Did you end up getting pregnant?
I did on the first try, which was a wild, amazing, pleasant surprise because after 3 years of not having any luck and doing everything except IVF, tons of different drugs and the whole fertility industrial complex. Yes, it was an amazing surprise.
Great. And so how long ago was that?
My son turned 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so roughly almost like 2.5, 2 years and 9 months ago.
Yeah, almost 3 years.
Wow, almost 3 years. That's great. Well, congratulations. That's great. So after you had your son, did you have any symptoms come back, or did you just start to feel better, or, where are you kind of now?
Right. Well, I think that part of my journey to understanding my own endometriosis is after I had my son, I had a completely different cycle. I don't get cramps really anymore. I get headaches. I still definitely have very heavy periods, but the cramps are just so different. I've also incorporated CBD into my. I take it daily. It helps me with sleep, but I take extra doses around my period. I usually start 3 or 4 days before and take it through my period and then a few days afterwards. And that has been incredibly helpful in just evening out any symptoms that I might experience. And CBD has been shown to be really, really effective with cramps. So um, my body's different, but I also have more tools, and I don't have to take things like Midol that really did make me feel terrible in my stomach and all kinds of
Yeah.
bad symptoms. So it's been so positive in so many ways, but it's hard to identify exactly what is responsible for it being better. And I think that what I've been learning about endometriosis, and the more people that I talk to and the more people I share my story with, especially when they're curious about cannabis, it's so different for every woman. I mean, I've been listening to your show, and it's so different for every woman. And it feels to me like a thread is that women diminish their symptoms, or their symptoms are diminished by others. And so I've just reflected a lot on that, and it's a heavy thing to learn and to know and to have experienced myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really agree with you about the diminishing of symptoms, and we just keep pushing forward and I want to try and remove that taboo. I want to be open and vulnerable so people know how painful this condition can be. And like you said, it does affect everybody different, and certain things work for someone that doesn't work for somebody else. So it's like a guessing game, which is unfortunate because there's just no silver bullet for any person. But I want to talk to you more about the CBD because I'm really interested. Is that like a tincture? I mean, for people who don't know anything about CBD and they hear that you say that this has really helped you, where can they start, or what should they do?
Sure. Well, we have a podcast. Um, our podcast is called How to Do the Pot. It's a modern woman's guide to legal cannabis. It's hosted by my business partner, April Pride, and we have an entire episode on endometriosis. We talk to a neuroscientist, we talk to a wonderful physician who has dedicated herself to cannabis medicine after seeing the results that patients have experienced. And so the episode goes through a lot of the research that's out and the science behind why cannabis can be so effective for women with endometriosis and with painful periods and with pelvic pain.
Yeah.
It really um, all of us have what's called an endocannabinoid system, and it's a system that is similar to the nervous system or the cardiovascular system, only it was discovered in the 90s. And so there's a lot less research about it, and medical schools are very slowly starting to add it to their curriculum. But the endometriosis, the endocannabinoid system, which we call the ECS, helps to promote homeostasis in the body, or balance. And so it really has incredible effects when it's out of whack or when it's in balance. And CBD for a lot of women that have pelvic pain can help to balance the system so there's less pain. Endometriosis has shown to be a disease of a deficiency in endocannabinoids. And so by adding CBD, you can even out that balance. And that's really what I've experienced. And that's what a lot of other women have experienced as well. And it helps to even out your system. It helps with pain. And there's even some research that is being done that the doctors on our show talk about, that it can help to prevent some of the symptoms going forward. So it's wildly promising. And CBD is derived from the hemp plant, which is completely legal in the US. THC is not. And so the challenges with testing and really having data that would support all of this are numerous. But as more and more states legalize, right now there are 11 states where it's legal for adult use and 33 states where it's legal for medical use. So states are just seeing that this is incredibly promising and starting to run their own research.
Yeah, that's incredible information. Thank you for sharing that. And, for the people who don't have access to potentially getting the THC or cannabis for the CBD, is the tinctures the best? Is the liquid form the best, or is there a pill? I mean, I just think that there's probably people listening that are like, oh my goodness, I want to try this tomorrow, but where do they even start? Because there's so much information out there that a lot of people are just trying to sell to you.
Yeah,
So how can people
definitely.
what works for you? Is it a liquid? Is it a pill? Is it a salve? Is it all of it? And then, how can people find a respectable brand?
Sure. All of those are excellent questions. And CBD is available in all 50 states. CBD is a big topic, and there are many different kinds. I would say do not buy CBD from the gas station. Don't buy it. Really, if you want um, to really understand where your CBD is coming from, make sure that the company that you're buying from has their testing available on the website. And we work with women-led companies. We love a lot of women-led CBD companies. We feature some on the podcast and have specific recommendations for brands that we know are doing it right, that are really connected to their farm, that touch the plant at every stage, going from the farm all the way into their products. Full spectrum CBD is really important. You want the entire plant. So I can definitely share. I mean, there are so many brands that I love. I can share them with you. You can put them in the show notes. Companies like Equilibria, Rosebud CBD, Sagely Naturals, Mellow CBD, which is based in New York. Foria is another great one, Quim. And yes, there are many different ways to use it. So what I use is a tincture, and that is oil. And I put it under my tongue. You hold it under your tongue for 30 to 60 seconds, and that's it. CBD it can be subtle, and you need to use it for a minimum of 2 weeks consistently to start to feel anything. Some companies that we work with say that depending on the person, it can take up to 3 months to really feel the effects. So think of it like a supplement, and really it is worth sticking with. I promise it's worth sticking with.
Yeah.
Take it every day, and but for a minimum of 2 weeks, really, before you're going to feel any effects. So I use the tincture. I like the tincture a lot. It's just easy. It's convenient. There's a dropper, so you can, most of the droppers have little measuring sections, so you can figure out. A lot of the droppers come with about a 30-day dose. So that's just something to think about when you're trying it. But I think that my number one tip is stick with it. Okay. Because it's just not going to provide the benefit and connect with your endocannabinoid system and have those balancing effects until it has taken some time to get into your body.
Right. Okay. That's incredible advice. I haven't started doing that, and I really probably should. So even personally, I think that will be really helpful advice for me. I'll use a salve, a CBD salve, which I actually really like too when I have, acute pain in certain locations, and it actually really helps. What about, are there any side effects? Just CBD? Is there anything, is it going to make us feel wonky? Is it, people are just starting this journey, is there anything that they should be worried about?
I don't experience any side effects that are negative. The side effect that I have is actually better sleep.
Yeah, that's a great side effect that I think everyone in the world can use right now.
CBD fights inflammation, and THC fights pain, and so that's another just important thing to think about. THC really relieves pain by disrupting the pain signal, and CBD is fighting inflammation. So with a topical, if the pain that you're experiencing is related to inflammation, a topical will definitely help you. If you're looking for acute pain relief, you're probably going to need some THC in order to really feel it. So there are a lot of great options for women. Suppositories are something that, you know, not a lot of women are experienced with or talk about, but they really, really go directly to the source of the pain and can be very fast acting, and women swear by them. Companies like Foria, companies like Mellow make great suppositories. They're very safe, very clean, wonderful companies. And so that would be another thing to try. That would be very fast acting and immediate. Another option is a bath bomb. So skin's your largest organ. If you are just feeling really terrible and you want to get in the bath, that's another fast acting way to bring CBD into your body.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I think we've covered CBD pretty well. Now I want to talk about, well, you have, you know, this podcast, and it's all about, I mean, I know you guys talk about CBD, but it's about pot. Everyone, we're going to talk about pot, but THC, which I feel like has been so taboo for so long, but I live in Michigan, so it's also legal here. We just got our first dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like me personally, though, like I literally have not partaked in smoking marijuana since like high school, right? And I remember that, and I was like anxious and like didn't feel good. And so for me, it was just like, I'm never going to try this again. But now that we have someone I could actually go talk to and say, this is how I want to feel, these are my symptoms, I'm excited that I might actually be able to use that instead of taking the Advil or the, you know, whatever pain medication I need during my period. So I know you guys cover this like crazy on your podcast, but you know, THC, is it scary? Is it taboo? Talk to us about that.
Well, I love the whole cannabis plant so much. It just brings so much relief to people on so many different levels. So, but yes, it's scary. I mean, part of the reason our podcast is called How to Do the Pot is we were talking to our friends and saying, we're going to teach you how to do the pot. And everyone would laugh, and it would make us feel so happy because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of misunderstanding about the plant. And so we just want to provide a space, tell women's stories, talk to experts, and really help women feel comfortable and answer some of their questions in a really discreet way. My business partner, April, has a lot of experience in cannabis. She founded a company that was sold to a Canadian company. And so she was crossing Canada, talking to women leading up to federal legalization. And all of the questions that women asked her, we answer on our podcast. And that's really what drove so much of the content, because we just want to teach women how to do this very practically, very specifically. So, you know, Michigan just became an adult use state. We have an episode, a 10-minute episode that is all about how to go to a dispensary for the first time. 5 things to know, what to bring with you, how to get the experience that you want. And so that's really what our podcast is all about. We have an episode on edibles. We have episodes on pregnancy, which is another thing that women ask a lot of questions about, on sleep. We try to cover everything that you might not know about cannabis and be afraid of in fun, short episodes telling women's stories. So hopefully that's a good start in getting a little bit more comfortable. But THC from a pain standpoint can really, really make a big, big difference. I had some dental surgery a few months ago, and when I got out of the surgery, the doctor had given me a super strong medication. I didn't want to take it, but I wasn't exactly sure whether I could swap it for cannabis. So on the second day, I just was feeling terrible on this medication. And I said, you know what? I have a lot of weed. I might as well try it.
Right.
So I knew that I was going to need higher THC than what I normally like so that it would kill the pain. And I used the cannabis. I actually smoked it. And I was able to go from needing a pain pill every 3 hours to about every 7, which is a huge, huge difference. And it leads into a conversation around opioids. And if you can limit the amount of those drugs that you're taking in the short term, it can really, really support not becoming addicted.
Yeah.
So THC is an amazing, amazing substance.
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten a lot of bad rap, but I also think because people like you guys who are doing this podcast and like actually educating people on the benefits of it, I know myself personally, I would much rather take a plant versus something that was made by a pharmaceutical company. I hate to say that, but just like the birth control in the beginning of our conversation, like it's just not natural. Our bodies, I try to eat healthy and do all these healthy things and use organic this and organic that. But then if I'm literally just putting these pills in my body that are synthetic, does that counteract all of the other good things that we're trying to do? Where I feel like cannabis it's a flower, it's a plant. And I think it's very beneficial. And I'm excited I need to tune in and listen to that, how to go to a dispensary now that we just got one in Michigan.
Yes, definitely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that the real benefit, I mean, there are pain relief benefits, there are stress and sleep benefits, but the limited number of side effects, I think, is something that really connected with me when I first started to kind of bring the plant back into my life and use it and experience what it can do for you. And if you have experienced painful side effects and challenging side effects with other medications, I definitely encourage you to listen to the episodes, talk to, we have a lot of experts on the show who you can reach out to. You can reach out to us and ask questions. And the more questions that people ask of their physicians, the more this becomes something that can help other people, because by keeping the questions to yourself and trying to do this on your own, which I completely understand, but I just think that as more states legalize, the more you can talk to your doctors about trying to incorporate cannabis, the more likely that we'll have more data that will really support all of us.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the question I was going to ask. Is that why you ladies started the podcast? Was it because you felt like there were so many questions and taboos out there that you wanted to educate women specifically about how to do the pot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We wanted to give women the tools that they need to understand where cannabis fits into our lives and culture. And so many women, I mean, there's 76 million women living in states that are legal right now that are over 21. That's a lot of women who have had experiences like yours, or eaten a cookie that did not agree with them.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the terms that you might hear when you talk about cannabis lately is microdosing, which just means taking small doses that don't make you feel intoxicated. And that is, it's something that can be achieved through smoking by taking, like a very small hit off of a joint or a vape pen. But tinctures and edibles are really, really excellent for microdosing. Tinctures are my favorite way to consume cannabis. I just feel like I can really control. You feel the effects in about 15 minutes. And so you can say, is this how I want to feel? Do I feel anything? Do I want to feel a little bit more? And it allows you to sort of take the time to pay attention to your body and know that you've put something in and say, is this supporting me or not? And so I think tinctures are a wonderful kind of starter way to figure out how your body reacts to cannabis.
That's also a really good tip too, because I'm just like, I don't know if I want to smoke something, I don't want to put smoke into my lungs. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. So that's also very, very helpful. Thank you. Just even for myself personally, I'm sure all the listeners are really going to enjoy this too. And, we have listeners from all over the world, and we actually have a lot in Canada. So our Canadian friends are, someone joked on the podcast that their post office is the biggest drug dealer in the country because they used to order and have it shipped to their house. The States, I don't think we're that progressive yet, but is there anything else you want to add or talk about for the podcast, or just for people with endometriosis, I know you said 76 million people, in states that could actually access using cannabis right now. And there's 1 in 10 women that have this disease. Actually 1 in 8 is really what we think.
Is that the new number? Wow.
Yeah. So it's so common, unfortunately, and it's just the more awareness and research that gets out there, the more information that empowers people to actually speak up that they have the disease. I mean, so many people don't even know that they have it. Just like you didn't know you had it.
Yeah, just like I didn't know I had it. I mean, that's really one of the reasons why I want to talk more about it, because if hearing my story makes a woman consider the possibility that this could be something that she has, it just, once you have the information, it really, really is for the best. And I know that in the past, from what I have kind of paid attention to, it doesn't seem like there were a whole lot of great options for women with endometriosis. And, it was surgery, it was more drugs, it was more surgeries, it was really challenging. And one of the things that heartens me so much is cannabis really, really is helping women, and it can help women with far fewer side effects than what else is out there. And so, tell your friend, talk to your friend. We have a newsletter that you can join, and we share a lot of different tips about how to do the pot, but we talk about really specific ideas, tips, brands, where we think there are companies that are doing this really well in cannabis. And I would just encourage you to try and learn and consider cannabis, and try to understand what you do know that that is true, and what you may have learned that is more propaganda, fear-based. And honestly, if you feel afraid of cannabis, it's probably from the propaganda. Yeah. And just from the messaging. And cannabis could be legal in the next few years, and so a whole lot of people are going to be reprogramming how it can be incorporated into their lives. And especially for women with endometriosis, there are really, really some major benefits to learning how cannabis connects with your body. And I just want to give a little bit of hope to people out there. I have shared these tips with a lot of women, and they're really seeing results and getting relief.
That's great. You guys are doing great work over there and talking about this. So definitely go check out the podcast, which I will also link in the show notes, and sign up for the newsletter. I'm going to do that literally immediately. I should have been doing that months ago to get this great information.
I'll send you the endometriosis newsletter.
Yes. I absolutely want that. Ellen, thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us about this. I actually think this is going to be very helpful for so many people.
Thank you so much for having me, and for all that you do.
Of course. Thank you for all you do.